The wind of Varela 9 screamed across the broken metal plains, carrying the smell of storms and old memories. In the middle of that empty world stood a small alien girl named Elira. Her silver skin shimmered faintly whenever lightning flashed above, and her eyes glowed a soft blue that reflected both hope and sadness. Every night she climbed the same cracked tower and pressed a single red button on a transmitter that barely worked anymore. The tower buzzed weakly and sent out a flicker of light into the endless sky. She always whispered the same words in her people's language. Mother, father, I'm still here. Then she waited. Nothing ever came back, no signal, no ship, no answer. The silence became her only friend. Elira had been waiting for 5 long years. She was no longer a baby, but still a child, and everything she knew about life came from the hologram recordings her parents had left behind. They had promised to return after finding a rescue vessel when the great evacuation failed. But they never did. The storms worsened, the colony fell silent, and Elira learned to live alone among the bones of machines and the shadows of the past. Every day was the same. She searched for metal scraps and old energy cells from broken drones. She used them to power her transmitter for a few hours each evening. She ate from the nutrient dust stored in sealed boxes, drank from condensers that pulled water from the air, and talked to the small glowing projection of her parents when loneliness became too heavy. Her mother's hologram smiled and said, "Be brave, Elira. Someone will come." Her father's image always added, "Keep the light on. Lights guide those who are lost." One stormy night the sky broke open again, but this time it was different. A blazing line of fire cut across the clouds. A ship was falling. Elira ran outside, her small feet splashing through mud and metal dust. She stared at the burning object descending fast, vanishing behind the far hills with a deep rumble that shook the tower. She hesitated only a moment before grabbing her small tool bag and running toward the crash site. Her heart pounded. She didn't know if it was danger or hope waiting for her out there, but she couldn't stop. The light of the crash burned through the darkness, showing her the path. When she reached the place, the air smelled of smoke and fuel. A small human scout ship lay torn open in a crater. Its metal still glowed orange from heat. A figure crawled from the wreck, tall, wearing a dark gray suit with a cracked visor. The man inside coughed, staggered, then fell to his knees. Elira froze behind a rock. She had never seen a human before. Her parents had told her they were travelers from another system, curious, stubborn, and brave, but she had never believed she would see one. The stranger looked around, scanning with a small handheld device. Then his eyes found her. For a long moment, neither moved. The storm winds howled between them, carrying dust and ash. Finally, the man removed his broken helmet. His face was pale, scratched, and tired, but his eyes were gentle. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you real?" Elira stepped forward slowly. "You came back," she whispered. The man blinked, confused. "Back," he repeated. Then, understanding her small trembling hands and the way she looked at the sky, he sighed. "No, kid. I'm not who you think. But maybe I can help." His name was Captain Mason Hale, a human explorer who had been separated from his fleet during a navigation error near the Virelan system. His ship's jump drive failed, and he crash-landed before he could call for help. The oxygen reserves were low, and his transmitter range was limited. He had only a few days to repair the system before the storms made communication impossible. But when he saw the small alien child in the middle of the wasteland, everything changed. Mason forgot his damaged ship and his failing equipment. He looked at her and saw something no scanner could measure: pure loneliness. "Where are your people?" he asked gently. Elira pointed at the ruins. "Gone. They said they'd come back." "They didn't." Mason followed her to the tower. Inside, he saw the flickering holograms. 2 smiling aliens repeating a message that had long become a ghost. He watched silently while the girl showed him her transmitter. It was half-functional, its power cells nearly dead. Still, every night she turned it on. The human felt something twist inside him. He had lost his crew once, years ago, during a failed mission on Mars. The guilt had followed him ever since. Now, seeing this small child holding on to hope that the universe had already forgotten, it broke something open in him. He decided he would not let her die waiting. The next morning, Mason began repairing the transmitter. He scavenged parts from his crashed ship, wires, microchips, power couplers, and explained everything he was doing in simple words so she could learn. Elira followed him everywhere, her curiosity glowing brighter than the storms outside. She learned quickly, mimicking his gestures, holding tools with careful fingers. When she asked, "Why are you helping me?" Mason only smiled. Because someone should have come a long time ago. They built together for days. When the sun shone weakly through the clouds, they worked. When the storms returned, they sat by the dim firelight and talked. Mason told her stories of Earth, blue oceans, tall forests, birds that sang at dawn. Alira listened wide-eyed, trying to imagine a world full of colors instead of dust and steel. In return, she showed him her people's language, soft tones that made glowing symbols appear in the air. Each symbol carried emotion as well as meaning. Mason was fascinated. "Your words. They look like light," he said once. Alira smiled. "That's because truth must shine to be heard." Time passed and something gentle grew between them. Something like family, though neither said it aloud. The human began calling her kiddo. She called him captain, though she didn't know what it meant exactly. When he laughed, she laughed too, even if she didn't understand the joke. For the first time in 5 years, the tower echoed with the sound of life again. One evening, Mason's scanners detected a faint signal. His heart raced. He had reactivated the beacon using his ship's power core. It was working. "We did it," he told her, smiling wide. "We're sending a signal far beyond this world." But when Alira checked the frequency code, her expression changed. "That's not my parents' channel," she whispered. The signal pattern was sharp, military, and cold. Mason frowned. He amplified the wave and listened carefully. Then his eyes darkened. "These aren't colonists," he said quietly. "These are Virellan enforcers." Alira stepped back, her face pale. They don't save people," she murmured. "They erase mistakes." The truth hit Mason like a punch. The same government that had abandoned this world was now coming back, to destroy any survivors to hide their failure. The beacon had drawn them straight here, and the little girl beside him was now the last target of their mission. He turned to her. "We can still fix this. We'll hide. Maybe I can jam their sensors." Alira shook her head. "They always find what they look for." Mason knelt down so his eyes met hers. "Then we'll make sure they don't look long." He spent the next hours building defenses from the wreckage, motion traps, metal shields, signal blockers. The sky grew darker, heavy with approaching thunder. The sensors began to beep rapidly. A large object was entering the atmosphere. Through the window, they saw distant lights descending like silent stars. Alira's small hand grabbed his sleeve. "Captain, are they going to hurt you too?" Mason tightened his jaw. "Not if I can help it." He gave her a small pendant, a piece of metal carved from his ship's hull. "Keep this. It's from Earth. It means you're not alone." When the first thunderous shockwave rolled through the valley, Mason looked up. The enforcer craft was enormous, shaped like a blade slicing the sky apart. Dust swirled, lightning cracked, and the ground shook beneath their feet. Alira clung to the railing as Mason powered down the transmitter and grabbed his gear. He turned once toward her. "No matter what happens, stay in the ruins. Don't move until it's quiet again." She wanted to protest, but the words froze in her throat. The human's calm eyes told her everything. He had made his choice. The sound of engines grew louder. Shadows of armored soldiers began to fall across the valley floor. The beacon light flickered one last time before dying, and as the enforcer ship landed, shaking the tower to its core, Alira heard Mason's voice over the storm. "You won't lose anyone again. Not while I'm still breathing." The alien warship descended through the clouds like a shadow of steel and thunder. Its engines burned blue fire into the sky, shaking the ruined tower until pieces of metal fell around the small shelter where Alira hid. She pressed both hands over her ears, eyes wide with fear. The sound was louder than any storm she had ever heard. Outside, Captain Mason Hale stood near the tower's entrance, his helmet visor cracked, his rifle hanging from his side. His heart pounded, but his mind was clear. He had been in battles before, but this was different. This time he wasn't fighting for orders or medals. He was fighting for a child who had waited too long to be loved. Dust and wind swirled as the Virellan enforcer squad stepped from their ship. Their armor glowed with cold light, and their voices came through translators that hissed with static. "Identify yourself, human. You have no right to interfere with restricted genetic property." Mason didn't move. "She's not property," he said quietly. "She's a child." The aliens ignored his words. Their scanners began to search the ruins, sending thin beams of red light across the ground. Mason raised his weapon, though he knew it was useless against their energy shields. Still, he refused to back away. "Turn over the subject and you may leave alive," the lead enforcer warned. Mason's voice stayed steady. "No." For a long moment, silence hung in the air, broken only by the whisper of wind. Then the enforcer gave a sharp order and the others spread out. Mason took cover behind a broken wall. He activated the small gravitic pulse generator he had built from his ship's remains. It wasn't a weapon. It was a burst of energy meant to overload nearby electronics. If it worked, it might give him a few seconds. The soldiers closed in. Mason pressed the trigger. A bright wave of blue light exploded from the tower. The air itself seemed to twist. The alien scanners flickered and died. Their helmets short-circuited, their weapons shut down for a moment. Mason used the chance to run forward, firing at their legs and armor joints, not to kill but to distract. Each shot sparked against metal. The enforcers stumbled, trying to reboot their systems. Then the pulse generator overheated and blew apart. Mason was thrown backward, crashing against a wall. His vision blurred, but he saw that it had worked. The enforcers were retreating toward their ship, afraid of another human trick. The stories about Earth soldiers were well known across the galaxy. Humans who never gave up, no matter the odds. Elira rushed out of the ruins when the noise faded. "Captain," she cried, kneeling beside him. His face was pale, his suit cracked, but he smiled faintly. "Told you," he murmured. "They don't stay long when humans are around." She helped him sit up, though tears filled her eyes. "You're hurt. I've been worse," he said. He took something small from his pocket, a data crystal glowing softly. "Listen to me. This holds a message, a signal code that will reach my people. They'll come for you." She shook her head, frightened. "No, you're coming too." Mason smiled again, weaker this time. "If I can't..." "You'll tell them who you are. You'll tell them what happened here. Promise me, kiddo." Elira clutched his hand. "I promise." He looked toward the sky where the enforcer ship rose slowly, retreating into the clouds. The danger was gone for now, but his oxygen meter blinked red, leaking air through his damaged suit. Mason's breath grew shallow. Still, he spoke calmly. "You know, Elira, when I crashed here, I thought my story was over, but maybe it was just beginning. Because of you." She pressed his hand to her chest. "You fixed my light," she whispered. He smiled one last time. "No, you kept it shining." 3 days later, the storms cleared. The beacon tower stood tall again, its signal burning stronger than ever. Elira had followed Mason's instructions carefully. She used his tools and the data crystal to power the transmitter fully. A coded beam of human frequency cut through the clouds, searching for anyone listening, and someone did. A human rescue ship from a nearby colony picked up the signal. When they landed, they found the wreckage of Mason's ship, the restored tower, and a small alien girl standing beside it. She saluted them the way Mason had taught her. The commander stepped forward. "Are you the one who sent the signal?" Elira nodded, her voice steady though her eyes were wet. "Captain Hale sent it," she said softly. "He said humans always keep their word." They found Mason's body beneath the tower, resting beside a burned-out generator. His helmet was off, his hand still touching the base of the beacon as if making sure it kept shining. The humans buried him there under the red soil of Virella 9 and placed his pilot badge on a small stone. When they asked Elira what she wanted to do, she simply said, "Go where he came from." The commander nodded. "Then you're coming home with us." Years passed. The galaxy moved on, but Elira never forgot the lonely world where her fate had changed. She grew up among humans, learning their languages, their songs, and their ways of courage. Her glowing eyes and silver skin made her stand out, but people respected her because of who she was, not what she looked like. Under human care, she studied science, flight, and diplomacy. She wanted to understand both species, the Virellans who left her behind and the humans who saved her. She became one of the first alien ambassadors trained on Earth, known for her calm voice and brilliant mind. Whenever someone asked where she came from, she answered, "From a place where one human taught me that kindness is stronger than fear." One day, many years later, the Galactic Council gathered to discuss Earth's future. Some alien races still feared humans, calling them reckless and dangerous. The debate grew heated. Elira, now a young woman, stood from her seat at the center of the Great Hall. The silver glow of her skin shimmered under the light. She spoke slowly, her voice steady. You say humans are dangerous because they fight. You are wrong. They fight only when something precious needs protection. I know this because one of them protected me. The chamber grew silent. Elira lifted the same metal pendant Mason had given her years ago. This belonged to Captain Mason Hale of Earth. He came to my world by accident. He could have left me to die, but he stayed. He fought an army to save one small alien child he didn't even know. He died so I could live. Her eyes softened as she looked around the council chamber filled with hundreds of alien faces. He didn't see species or borders. He saw a child who needed help. That's what humanity is. That's what they bring to this galaxy. The hall was quiet for a long time. Then one of the elder counselors, an ancient being made of light, stood and said, "If that is the heart of humanity, then they belong among the stars." Applause filled the chamber. Elira closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. Somewhere deep inside, she could almost hear Mason's laugh, the rough, gentle sound that had once filled the tower of Varela 9. Years later, she returned to that forgotten world. The storms had calmed and wild plants had begun to grow where machines once stood. The tower still rose in the distance, though old and covered in dust. Elira landed her sleek silver shuttle beside it and stepped out quietly. She walked to the small stone that marked Mason's grave. The badge was still there, polished by the wind. Kneeling down, she placed a single blue flower from Earth beside it. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "And so did I." She activated a small device and looked up as the sky filled with light. A new beacon flared to life, brighter and stronger than before. It was not a call for rescue this time. It was a signal of remembrance, a light to guide anyone lost in the dark. As night fell, the stars above seemed to shine a little closer. Somewhere, across the endless galaxies, the story of a lonely alien child and a human stranger became a legend told among travelers and wanderers. They called it The Light of Varela 9, a story about a man who taught an alien child what it meant to be human.